What's going on, guys? Steve at Podium 1 Racing here in the studio. Today we're going to show some of the differences in the motors in the sim racing world, as well as some of the different options there are in the wheels. Let's go. So first, guys, we're going to start off with a gear-driven system. Most popularly noted is going to be the Logitech suite of wheels and bases that they have. This is a G920. They have the G923, different versions, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and such, right? But this is a gear-driven system. Basically what that means is that there's gears within the housing here. And as you turn the wheel, those gears turn, much like in anything you would expect that has gears. So as it turns, it goes. 2.2 Newton meters. Probably means nothing to most people that are just getting into this, but basically means that there's going to be some feedback, but relatively. It gives you the sensation of turning the wheel. You will feel some rumbles. When you go over the strips, these things actually rattle pretty loud. You can hear the gears shaking quite a bit. But for $299, I think some of the versions go for a touch more, but again, relatively cost effective. They come with the wheel, they come with the motor, and they also come with the pedals, right? So you get a full system right out of the box that allows you to go. It does not give you the full feeling and the sensation of something that if you're on the track. I mean, it doesn't even really replicate if you're driving a real car on the road. But again, you have something that's more than a controller that you can turn, get you into sim racing early on, and lets you kind of get your feet wet, if you will, or get your tires hot. So next on the list, you would have a belt drive, right? Another system that you would see if you're doing research yourself online. This particular model, the CSL 2.5, is no longer available. But we did at least want to discuss the differences between these, right? So with the belt drive system, instead of gears, you have a belt. Much like, again, on your car, on your accessory items and stuff in your car, where there's a belt system. Now, as you turn the wheel, the belt has tension and it essentially fights you. There is still some give in a belt drive system, right? So you're going to feel a little of that dead space in the beginning, a little slack that needs to get taut, if you will, before it really starts moving. These go up to 8 Newton meters, right? So on the Logitech systems, for example, I mentioned they go to 2.2 Newton meters. Again, that's the force that you're kind of going to feel. These go up to 8. I personally doubt that they really even get that high, but that's what they say they can do. 8 Newton meters. No longer here, so we don't have to go too much into it, but just kind of give you an idea because you will see about them. Fanatec actually replaced these belt drives. I'm assuming they replaced it with the CSL DD, which is their new, smaller direct drive, and that's really where the market's going. So I'll show you a direct drive now, where you have something that is smaller than both of the last solutions, but weighs more than both of them combined. Right? So this is a Simucube 2 Sport direct drive motor. This has 17 Newton meters that it can go up to. So when you're getting into that range, you're really starting to get something that's going to fight you and start to feel more like the road. Chandler and I, along with a lot of our friends, we're on cars on tracks, drive different supercars and stuff, but we can tell you that these, when you're starting to get into these direct drives that are in that 17, 20, 25 Newton meter range, you're not using that full power, but they're giving you a lot of the fidelity of what you're going to feel on the road in real life, right? So there is nothing here. So this is just a magnet drive, whereas the others, like I said, first one was a gear drive, second was a belt drive. These are magnets, so there's nothing really fighting you at all until you turn it on, and then the electricity that's going around the magnet is actually what's going to create that pressure, right? And then give you the force feedback that you're looking for. With a direct drive system, because there's no gears that you're waiting on the teeth, there's no belt that you're waiting for the tension, as soon as you start to turn this wheel, you'll even see it in the game. If you turn it just a millimeter, you will see your wheel in game turn the same, right? So this gives you a very smooth, realistic feel, but also has the ability to throw you out of the chair, essentially, if you turn it all the way up and go rip or go crash somewhere. Why that's important, again, like I mentioned earlier, you're not going to use the full 17 in this. You're not going to use the full 25 in a Fanatec DD2 or a Simucube Pro 2, but what you have is that overhead, right? So you're mainly going to be using these probably at like a 6 to 8, maybe even a 10, but now as you're going through a turn and you're feeling that wheel fighting you, and then someone bumps you on the side and you feel your curb on the left side, let's say, someone bumps you on the right, you hit the curb on the left, this is going to be able to display all of that to you through the steering wheel, and you're going to be able to feel all that. Wheel slip, it really is incredible. When people go from a gear drive or a belt drive system to one of these, one of the first things they say is how all of a sudden they can start to feel all the different tires and where they're at on the track. So this is kind of where everything's going. These are what we primarily offer here at Podium 1, and we'll go from there. Let's go take a look at some wheels. So first, with the wheel, we have a rather basic Fanatec sim racing wheel, right? It has your buttons that you're going to need for your inputs, so you can do things like push the top. You can do things like, you know, whatever, your pit limiter, your starter, your ignition. You kind of go through your black box and such. So inputs on wheels are actually really important. You'll see on all these wheels here that we have, there's various amounts of inputs and what you can do. We'll kind of walk through them all real quick. But at least what you're going to want when you're buying a wheel is just think through it. You're going to want to have at your fingertips quickly some different inputs so you can do what you need to do while you're on the track without having to use and reach for your keyboard and mouse. What's nice about this wheel, it has your little limiter, rev limiters and stuff on here, so you can kind of see where you need to shift and where you're going. But rather simple, and there's a handful of like these out there. Moving up, we have Simucube's new wheel. This is an awesome wheel for what it is. It runs about $800, a lot of inputs for what it is. Magnetic shifters, again, versus like something like these. These are just floppy little, it's like bent metal. That's what adds the tension on there. These actually have magnetic shifters, so magnets pull the shifters back, and you get a nice soft click. They're not loud at all. You can slam on these things all day, and they're awesome. Now, what I also like about this particular wheel is that it has like a rotary encoder right here, as well as a functioning joystick, up, down, left, right, diagonals, spinning and such, right? So what's really cool is, for example, on iRacing, for example, I'll use this on my black box. Up, down, left, right, to cycle through the different black boxes. But let's say I need to increase my driver's height or play with my force feedback while you're on the track. You just simply highlight it, and then you can twist this knob once you bind this properly, and it'll increase or decrease. So you can do all this while you're on the fly without having to look away. Because once you get used to it, you're just doing it while you're driving. You're not even looking. You're just kind of doing it and know where things go. Again, push to talk. You've had pit limiters. You have windshield wipers. You have headlight flashers. All the different things that we can do with it. This is a wireless wheel, which is also really cool. Wireless charging. So a battery goes in here, wireless charging, but it slides on using a quick connect with Simucube. Just slides right on. It has a pin. When you need to take it out, you pull the pin, you slide it right off. So very cool wheel. Alcantara type of feeling. It actually is a suede, but it feels very good. And then, of course, it has the 12 o'clock driving line on the top. So moving on to the last kind of wheel that's out there. So the last wheel that we're going to talk about today and show you guys is the Cube Controls wheel, right? So the last wheel, let me just pull it out here again, the Simucube wheel. This is a D style. You notice it's in the shape of a D, right? Pretty self-explanatory. This wheel has a flat top and bottom, very similar to actually like a McLaren wheel, like a McLaren 600 LT. This is kind of what you find in the car by stock. Gives you a lot of clearance. So while you're sitting in there, if you need to turn, this part isn't going to go and hit your legs. This part's not hitting your legs, depending how you sit. Everyone's going to be a little different. Another cool thing about this particular wheel, you'll see that it's actually all carbon. So there is steel underneath. Some type of metal underneath, but it's all carbon overlaid with carbon shifters. So that makes this wheel significantly lighter than, say, again, something like this, that's all metal, whereas this has a lot of carbon fiber integrated into it. A wireless wheel. It does take charging, whereas that last wheel that I showed is wireless charging. This one you do have to plug in, however, the batteries last for days. And then when you do have to charge it, if you're charging it while you're driving, it really doesn't get in the way. It's a coiled USB cord that just plugs in the back of your PC and then plugs into here, and then it goes from there. Really cool with this wheel is that it lights up, right? So a lot of different wheels on the market will do things like this, where they'll have light up LED screens that can tell you telemetry, speed, tire pressures, et cetera, or something just like a gear shifter, kind of like what I showed earlier on the Fanatec wheel. This particular wheel, all the buttons have LEDs behind them. So at night, when you're playing in the dark, you can still quickly identify the different buttons and go from there. It has some additional thumb rotary encoders, so you can slide these while you're driving. Again, you can program these to something like your traction control, your brake bias, or your incremental changes on your black box. If you want to add fuel or whatever, however you decide to do it, but you can slide these up and down, roll these up and down, I should say, and you can do that. It has some additional rotary encoders, encoder style button switches here, up and down, up and down. All right, and these ones actually snap, which is kind of cool. Very different than the regular standard type that go up and down and like go back to center. But again, just to kind of show you, there's a lot of different wheels that are out there. I personally use the Fanatec F1 2.5 wheel. Again, another wheel that has a lot of buttons, that allows me to have a lot of inputs while I'm driving, so I don't have to look away. Definitely don't want to be grabbing my keyboard and mouse when in the middle of a race. So that's, I think, one of the most important things is find something that looks the way you want it to, because obviously this is what you see. This is what people are looking at. So find something that looks the way you want to be represented, I guess. Find something that feels good, what you think would feel good in your hands, but definitely make sure that you have the buttons so you can go and bind as many different things as you need to so you can have quick access to them. Some of the quick things about wheels that are out there. Hope you guys found this entertaining and somewhat helpful. Any questions, let us know. Hit us up at podium1racing.com. Thanks.